On a whim, I sent a message to another creator on Instagram, World of Stonecraft, and he got back to me and we quickly decided that we wanted to do a collaboration. You should definitely go follow his account because it's full of inspiration and you'll get his half of the collaboration over there. Together, we decided to roll for terrain. This is a build challenge where you take 6 dice and then you roll on the Mordheim exploration chart, and you can download the Mordheim rulebook for free, link in the description if you want to try this yourself. We decided to roll for each other and design sections of each other's boards. I rolled 3 threes, which is prisoners, and I designed a dungeon that he will be creating. And then he rolled 2 sixes, which is hovels, sent me over this sketch, and that's what we're going to be building today. Don't forget to go over to Instagram and check out his half of the collaboration. Right now, let's get to the build. This is going to be the final installment for my Mordheim Catacombs board. I need it to be able to close and store correctly, and that's something that wasn't taken into account with the sketch, and I didn't really expect him to do that. Honestly, having him design this last piece of the puzzle was really relieving because I've been overhyping this board in my head. It kind of took a lot of the pressure off. Weirdly enough, when I was talking to him, he was saying the same thing about the section I was designing for him. So we had a lot in common in that regard. I made these Gothic supports to kind of glue onto the walls of the board. This is going to be important because it's going to be like the foundations for all the levels that are going to be built above this. I made a brick punch out of a old brush that got ruined a couple weeks ago. I just bent the soft metal into a rectangle and I punched in all the brickwork that way, and it was really fast and it was really great. I've done this for some cobblestone roads before, but this was the first time I did it for bricks, and I might be doing this more often because, especially with this pink XPS foam, because it was really great. A lot of pressure had been building up to this in my head about putting the next piece onto the board. So it was really nice to break the ice. You could see I was overthinking this with the tape measure, but I finally got this piece in and I was able to kind of get the ball rolling. I spent time to make sure that I had a snug fit with this level piece, and then I mirrored it for the other side. You can see I'm using a handheld hot wire cutter. I'm using the side of my table as a straight edge, and I'm sandwiching the foam with a straight edge on top to make this as clean as possible. This is just a way to show you that you don't really need those expensive tools like a Proxxon cutter to work with this type of material. I'm actually pretty new to this material, but it is much easier to work with than I thought it would be. And I was able to buy these 12 by 12.25 boards of pink XPS foam on Amazon. I made these extra arch pieces, and I'm adding a lot of brick detail to these outermost pieces because the further it goes back into the board and to the darkness, the less detail you have to add. That's a really nice thing about this whole thing is it's kind of easy once you kind of stop overthinking it, because you don't have to add a ton of detail to everything. Just add detail to certain focal points, and the even nicer part is you only have to paint and detail the front half of everything. Typical Mordheim board, you'd have to detail every inch of it all the way around. You only get like a fourth of the work here, so that's kind of nice. I'm adding this arch detail from World of Stonecraft's design, and the one unfortunate part about installing these is I forgot to add the texture before installing it. So I grabbed my texture roller. It's like a 3D printed texture roller from Miscast, and I rolled that on and it worked amazing. So you should probably add texture before you glue it down. Note to self. I started placing these hand cut tiles, and the uneven height and texture of these will really benefit with the way I paint this later. So stay tuned for that. The next thing I'm using is called metal ribbon. I got this from the dollar store and it was so great for railings. That really stole the show so that I didn't have to put as many details other places. If you run across this is a definite grab. It was really nice to work with. You could just cut it with scissors. So this level was a little bit floppy, so I decided to add some supports with plastic candy canes that I got recommended from Dan Does YouTube channel. I thought it would be really cool to add a pulpit to this. So I used the bottom piece of like an Echo microphone and I put a super glue lid onto the bottom of that, and it was like the perfect shape for like a spire. And then I kind of finished it off with some more of that metal ribbon, cut that to size. I used a different pattern here too, and man, it turned out so good. I decided that the right side of the board needed to be a bit more collapsed because there was potential for stuff when the door closed to run into this. For this top level and some of the bottom levels, I definitely needed some more tiles, so I decided to cut those out. After I got a bunch of those, it was time to glue them down. So here's some of the improvised scaffolding for the rebuilt section of the first floor, or second, I guess, depending on your perspective. So this part of the build is pretty self-explanatory. So I just like to use this time to announce to you guys that the Mordheim Catacombs STL pack is free for everyone to download. You don't have to be a Patreon member. You just have to go onto Patreon and download it. On Patreon, I have several other STL packs that are completely free as well. Those are organized in the collections tab. Becoming a patron is only $2 a month, and I post a video every week. So that's only like 50 cents a video. In this month in particular, there are 5 Fridays, so that's basically a discount for you. I've been getting a lot of requests for people who want to see a battle report and see this board in action. Let's try to get this video to 1,000 likes. Making sure you like and comment on my videos helps me out a lot to get this video to reach new people and grow the channel. If we hit 1,000, for sure, I'm gonna be making that battle report video. I intend to put a lot of work into it, so I just wanna make sure there's an audience who actually want to see it. To make the hobbles for this board, I decided to use this old build to recycle these buildings kind of falling through the ceiling, kind of hinting at or making an entryway into the catacombs. To make the top of the cavern, I'm going to be using expanding insulation foam, and so I'm tacking these pieces into place with hot glue while the expanding foam kind of forms around it. And the expanding foams are really good adhesive as well, so it will hold this into place really well. The hot glue is only temporary until that XPS foam or the expanding foam really takes hold of these buildings. And then after all the building is basically done, I'm super surprised that this case can still close all the way. That was definitely a high priority, but it really was really satisfying to see this thing just become a chest again, basically unassuming, and then have this giant board hiding from plain sight. The very last thing to do was to add some scaffolding to connect these top hobbles together and make sure that there was some playability here. For a way down to connect the 2 levels together, I decided to make some rope ladders, and I just used pipe cleaner for that. So I just twisted the pipe cleaner into like a basic rope ladder shape, and then I cinched off all the fire. And on the other side, I just did the same thing, except for I just made it one straight rope with some knots in it to kind of assist quote unquote, the person climbing the rope. And I just did it with a lighter. You don't want to burn off the fur because it will actually like drip and it could hurt you. But you want to just use the heat from the lighter to shrink wrap the armature. The great thing about this is it's posable and it really keeps its shape really well. So after priming this with black spray paint, I'm just gonna go ahead and paint it. While I'm painting this, I feel like it's a good opportunity to thank my Patreon members. Thank you so much to Leroy, Fetter, Caracal, Old School FRP, Burning Heart Custom Creations, James, Anders, Hanover, Grim Drunk, Treborius, Andy, Corey, Mike, Nick, The Lich's Laboratory, Cabu, The Pessimist, Seb, Lori, Raph, Jonathan, Fabio Soroso, and our newest patrons, Doom Chupacabra, Sinister Grackle, and Silverfish Jen. Thank you guys for your support. I genuinely appreciate it. As the video comes to a close, I'd like to remind you guys that STL pack is now free for you guys to download, so go check that out on Patreon, and make sure you go to World of Stonecraft on Instagram and let him know I sent you, and follow him for his progress on his half of the collaboration. He's already posted a portion of his build and it looks so freaking cool. I can't wait for it to be finished. We're already talking about doing this again. If you could, leave me in the comments how much lead time you would like for a build like this. Go check out some of the things that you could roll on the exploration chart and just kind of figure, like, I know that some of you might say years, but just like trying to get a ballpark here. Special shout out for Soul Tenebris. He has a YouTube channel on YouTube, and I'll link his roll for terrain video in the description. He saw the last video and made his own. He rolled a smithy, and he's made this file available on the Discord, and the Discord's free to join, so go check his video out. Have a good one.